What's up, fellow capitalists? It's your intrepid guide to the 21st century, Nate Hausman here, and we're going to look at the Walt Disney Company. It's facing a lot of trouble, and we're exposing a lot of rot within the company, and we're actually going to examine how it's a microcosm for just about how the whole situation is in America and around the world, and how it's kind of a good analogy for what we're dealing with here. So, we're going to look at some news stories about all of Disney's troubles, but stock price, public opinion, public image, and we're also going to see what the current CEO is going to do about it. And if you find this content valuable, please share it. Please give it a thumbs up or a upvote, and subscribe. Whether you're watching this on Rumble, on YouTube, on Odyssey, or on the podcast, do those things, and hopefully you can get a lot of value and give a lot of value to your family and friends. So let's get started. This is from seekingalpha.com, and they're giving a kind of a report on Disney's stock price, and they're saying goodbye Mickey Mouse. This is from June 7th, 2022. Despite stellar growth in subscription for Disney Plus, Disney stock remained in sideways action for post quarter two of 2022 earnings. It's evident that macro headwinds are still against the stock, and we're going to look at some of those headwinds, especially worsened by its increasingly viewed as a streaming company. As a result, they're saying don't expect a stock recovery for now, though the reversal should be possible by next year, fiscal year 2023. And they're just going over some of the troubles that Disney's going through. And one of those troubles is its favorability rating taking a massive dive. This is from Bounding Into Comics, and I've shared this article on my own website. But Disney's favorability rating has taken a massive dive since last year, a new poll has revealed, which sees the company's approval rating collapsing from 77% to an embarrassing 33% amongst respondents. And this is by a poll commissioned by NBC News and conducted by Hart Research Associates through the month of May. And certain politicians like Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and the current White House squatter and vice squatter, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they, usually politicians favor rate pretty low in these polls, and brands do pretty decent. Disney has been adored by many generations, but because they're shoving woke politics, far left politics, the public's rejecting them. And so it's so much so that in government, certain politicians are suggesting, hey, we should reform the copyright laws so that older characters like Mickey Mouse go into the public domain. For many years, the Walt Disney Company has lobbied the U.S. Congress to change copyright laws so they can hang on to the copyright for their most famous characters. Mickey Mouse should have been public domain way back in, what does it say, 1955, when my parents were little kids. And the fact that the government's considering that, and the fact that the Florida government has taken away Disney World's, special tax haven status, I mean, the public is really going against Disney World. In fact, in Disneyland, it's the subject. Disneyland is the topic of a FBI investigation. They're saying that Disneyland has a cabal that controls the city government. This is from piratesandprincesses.net. This is Geeky Sparkle's blog. She's on Clownfish TV on YouTube. Great channel, one of my favorites. So first Florida, now California. Disney's political problems might have gone more complicated. According to a piece in the LA Times, a Disneyland employee is said to be part of an influential cabal influencing the government of Anaheim, California. This ongoing federal investigation is looking into corruption in the city of Anaheim and is investigating former mayor Harry Sidu as well as the former head of the Anaheim Chamber of Commerce in regards to embezzlement, among other things. So Disney is a huge, powerful company, and it has grown so huge that it can actually, get its way with. It has gone its way with local and state governments in this country, and people are putting a stop to it. And another macroeconomic problem that Disney faces is cricket rights in India. Cricket is a huge sport in India, and so far Disney has had kind of inherited the rights to a stream via Indian Premier League on Disney Plus. They kind of inherited that from when they bought 20th Century Fox, but that's up for sale. That's up for grabs now. So that's another problem. And what is another big problem? Well, Disney Star Wars. A lot of fans have rejected Disney's handling of the beloved Star Wars franchise because of just idiotic, trash handling of the source material. So, for example, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series is on Disney Plus, and by all accounts, the whole series is full of plot holes, contradictions of previous continuity. They actually make Darth Vader and Obi-Wan fight before their final duel on the Death Star in Episode 4. It's like none of this makes sense, and a lot of it's just bad writing. And they're hiding, and they hide their bad writing behind identity politics. They've said, "Oh, if you don't like the character Reva, who happens to be played by an African American woman, oh, then you're racist." Well, no, she's just a bad character. Everyone says she just doesn't gel with the rest of the cast. And we've even got admissions by the script writers on Obi-Wan that they haven't seen the original, the original trilogy or sequel trilogy movies. So the people, the middle managers and the executives in Lucasfilm and other, and other divisions of Disney, they're absolutely half-assing their jobs. They don't respect, what's come before, and the fans are calling them out on it, and the fans are rejecting a lot of what's on Disney Plus, in addition to the LGBTQ, alphabet soup content. One YouTuber who I really love watching is Doomcock on his Overlord DVD channel, and he roasts Obi-Wan Kenobi, saying it's nothing less than The Last Jedi all over again. And if you watch his video, he nails the problem. A lot of in The Last Jedi, they degraded. He says that the degradation and destruction of Luke Skywalker was no accident. It's part of Kathleen Kennedy's obsession. Kathleen Kennedy, who's like the current head of Lucasfilm. The systematic dismantling and subversion of the very universe she swore to George Lucas she protects. And why? Because the Force is female. Because intersectional feminism is Kennedy's ultimate goal. Because to dismantle the so-called patriarchy, one must attack its pillars on every front, including pop culture. He continues, I'm so angry as I do this review because I've seen the third episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I can sum up my review in this way. Episode 3 is an excellent episode built on top of a rotten foundation. That rotten foundation is the fundamental abuse of Obi-Wan Kenobi. She's, Lucasfilm is just totally degrading, the beloved character of Obi-Wan Kenobi. He was a hero in the Clone Wars. He was a wise and, optimistic mentor to Luke in episode 4. It's like certain elements of Hollywood, and we're going to look at that after, in a little bit here. Certain elements of Hollywood cannot tolerate, positive, masculine, examples of heroism. from Luke Skywalker, the way they embarrassed, Han Solo in Episode 7, the way, you know, Captain Picard is being, ruined in the Star Trek franchise by Paramount. They turned Boba Fett into a wimpy, ineffectual back-to-tank soaking dipshit who, much like other injured bodies, just occupied space while chicks on Vespas drove around doing his fighting for him, says Doomcock. Yeah. We're going to look at some examples of Hollywood reversing course, but it's not a complete turnaround. And it's kind of indicative of the culture war they're facing that's raging on throughout Western society. But before we get into the next article and kind of looking behind the scenes, I invite you to visit my sponsor, myself. You can click on the link to natehausman.net and store and buy some cool t-shirts and hats. I don't care about your title. I care about your evidence. Insurance is just GoFundMe with extra steps. Assets are more important than money. And it's okay to stand up for yourself, my tagline. So go ahead and click on the link and spread the message. And start a conversation. You can also click on the link, work with me, and avail of yourself my web design and marketing services. I'm a referral partner to a white label, web design and digital marketing service. So if you're in business for yourself, if you have a small business or you're self-employed, you need a website, and a good website can cost thousands of dollars up front. But with some of these plans, you can pay for it monthly. So you can pay, for a 3-page website, you can start with just $89 per month, or pay up front $899 up front. But look at what works for you and take advantage. So moving on here. We have a great article from thatparkplace.com. And this website is run by WDW Pro, who is a Disney insider. He doesn't use his real name because he'd probably get terminated if he was, if they found out he was leaking all this Disney insider information. Whenever he's like interviewed on other YouTube channels or other video channels, he uses a little voice modulator to disguise himself. But whoever wrote this article on the website, they have a great point. Bob Chapek, who is the current CEO of the Disney company, he's beginning his revenge. Disney mega exec Peter Rice is ousted. So a lot of people have, are arguing about whether Bob Chapek really is doing anything good for Disney. Right now he's leading it through probably the biggest period of strife that the company's ever faced. And there's some who blame his predecessor, Bob Iger, for a lot of it. Bob Iger hired a lot of, board executives and political hires because he got into his head that he wanted to run for office. And apparently another one of those political far left executives is Peter Rice. So let's go into the article here. The last few months have not been kind to Bob Chapek. After hiring a public relations and government liaison to guide the company in Jeff Morrell, as well as setting up a plan to moderate the company away from hot potato socio-political issues, Chapek was blindsided by forces inside his company that wanted to derail him. Using the legislation in Florida as their weapon, and that would be the anti-grooming bill in Florida's public schools, those forces formed an organization known as Disney Walkout that then worked together with other entities associated with the Reimagine Tomorrow and Disney's Human Resources Department to allegedly trip up the company's CEO and his plans. It seemingly worked. Within weeks, Chapek was forced to film an apology that has been compared to a hostage video, while Jeff Morrell decided to leave the company of his own volition. The April efforts to moderate the company were so overthrown that the company spiraled into the farthest opposite direction. But after a semi-solid earnings report in May, it appears that CEO Bob Chapek is now ready to start chopping heads. And though you might have thought he would go after someone like Tom Newton-Thurst, that would not have been a good PR move on his part. It would have certainly seemed retaliatory, retaliatory, and aimed at a minority woman. Instead, Chapek's first person to take out is none other than one of the biggest bigwigs at Disney, a man who hired several of the people we saw in the Reimagined Tomorrow videos that were so damaging out of Christopher Rufo's reporting, and the man who is tied very strongly to the Walter Kites Foundation we have discussed before, and we'll look at the Walter Kites Foundation in a little bit. Bob Chapek took out Peter Rice, chairman of Disney's Entertainment and Programming. This is a huge firing. From The Hollywood Reporter, sources say embattled Disney CEO Bob Chapek summoned Rice to his office Monday and relieved the former Fox executive of his duties. Rice's top lieutenant, Dana Walden, who also made the move from Fox to Disney, will be taking over his responsibilities. Sources say Rice had multiple years left on his contract and will receive a rich payout. So according to sources inside Disney, this is the article again, Peter Rice has been one of the leading voices pushing for a certain socio-political and cultural agenda within the Disney company. We knew something was up recently when Disney put in a reasonable and competent longtime Disney executive to work on government relations in a way that bypassed Peter Rice. We covered the very quiet Charissa Gilmore promotion weeks ago. In April, we also covered the connection between Peter Rice and the Walter Kites Foundation, on which he served as a board member. This was a major way in which the Walt Disney Company's financial interests were being allegedly subverted by a distinctly ideological push. And here's a quote from the website. In reality, or from the previous article, the organization has become something of a trailblazer in promoting identity groups over individuals. Not only does the organization promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, but it goes so far as to advocate for belonging. And we can see that on the walterkites.org website. And kites is spelled K-A-I-T-Z if you want to look it up yourself. That's a new category you might not hear much about from other organizations, and which borders on the edge of religious or a spiritual concept. For the Walter Kites Foundation, it's no longer just diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's DEIB. The organization advocates for an idea known as the Renaissance of Identity, or as I understand it, the reemergence of tribalist thinking over individual meritocracy. This is from inside the Civil War article. So the author says, I'm fairly certain that we're literally the only news organization that covered Peter Rice and his connections with the Walter Kites Foundation and the Disney Civil War we alleged was happening behind the scenes against Bob Chapek. So, and this is such, this is another example of what happens in companies and even in government. A new leader comes in promising to, shake things up and reform and make things better, but the middle rank executives or the middle ranking bureaucrats, say in the executive branch of the government, they mutiny. They work against the leader. We saw this with President Trump in his first term. He had trouble with lifers in the FBI like Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, and other, and members of Congress. There's always some sort of power struggle going on. Parts of the organization are on the public side. Other parts have a totally, communist, corporatist, elitist, tyrannical agenda to push on people. So, and then it's up to, independent, voices like me or the blog or the YouTubers or bloggers or podcasters to call it out, to make the judgment one way or another. Make it not a judgment, but kind of discern, and analyze things going on. So now, is Bob Chapek really the guy we need to root for? Is he, a CEO who's really going to effectively save the Walt Disney Company? We don't know, and that's part of the problem. We're kind of in an information war. Things aren't going to be settled until one side or the other is defeated. So don't be surprised that this isn't the last big firing for Bob Chapek. It seems that he feels confident that his job is secure And now it's time to start emptying out the bad actors of the company, in his opinion, not ours, who are potentially insubordinating the fiduciary goals of the company. He weathered the storm. He's seeing Disney polling numbers plummet. Now, after people have gone on to talk about other things, it's time to start taking out the people who may not be very well known to the average public, but who may have been behind much of what was going on. So, and this is another theory that I have. It's possible that Bob Chapek wants, all this public, outrage. He wants people to see how rotten the Walt Disney Company has gotten. He wants, journalists like Christopher Rufo to, expose all the middle ranking executives. He wants, people to know, his customers to know, hey, so there are some weirdos in my company. And this is not what, Walt Disney would have wanted. So, apparently he does have the blessing of Disney's board of directors, particularly, what's her name, Susan Arnold, who's like I believe the chairperson of the board. She's I've heard articles about her. She wants the company to get back to its family friendly image and content. So it could be that he's in a position to endure the storm, and then effectively reveal all the rot, and then he's in a position to clean house with the public's blessing. People saying, "Oh, I'm never gonna support Disney again." Well, just hang on for a while. Just hang on for like maybe a few months or a couple of years and see what happens then. And just think. I keep saying, ever since Joe Biden started squatting in the White House, ever since he, finagled his way and overturned the 2020 election, how many scandals have been revealed there? Like the hedge funds in Wall Street, the mismanagement of Afghanistan, I'm having trouble thinking of some off the top of my head, but just think how many red pills have been served since he finagled his way in to the highest office of the land. In a way, you might argue that Donald Trump wanted this to happen so that the people can experience and see just how rotten things are in government. So, and when we know, and when we see the rot, we're in a position to clean it out. So, here's the Walter Kites Foundation, their website. Like I said, Kites is spelled Kaitz. So just go to walterkites.org and you can just look at them for yourself. And they've got this meeting called the Hollywood Creative Forum. If you're listening on the podcast and not seeing their logo here, it looks eerily like the World Economic Forum logo. It's like got a very similar font and just kind of like similar way the words are arranged. And that's another example of the microcosm. You've got these nonprofit and non-governmental organizations like Walter Kites and the Forum here. They're influencing the way Hollywood is run, and you've got organizations like the World Economic Forum or think tanks in Washington steering how governments are run, how other corporations are run, and they are very pricey. You can't really attend them unless you fork over a lot of money. So they have become like a tool of the elites and a way for certain business and government leaders to collude, but not collude, not officially. How to kind of collude against the people. But we are seeing pockets of resistance and pockets of populism and pockets of quality and service to the customer. We have seen a few, Hollywood has been just almost worthless in the last few years, but we have seen some good examples of entertainment. We've seen, Top Gun Maverick is tearing things up. It's a movie that honors the original movie. It's not full of plot holes. It it respects the military and American values. It was made by Paramount Pictures, but Paramount Pictures is also, like I said, producing the current Star Trek, shows, which are embarrassingly bad, like Picard and Star Trek Discovery and Strange New Worlds. In another case, you've got Sony, who made Spider-Man: No Way Home, a great movie that honors Peter Parker and all the lore that came from the comics and all the lore that came, all the movies that came before it. Sony is also, they make the PlayStation, and a lot of people in the gaming space, they're like super upset about Sony's like censorship of PlayStation games and its woke content. So we do have, pockets of, we do have warring factions within each organization. And in Disney, I mean, pretty much all of Disney's current entertainment and media is woke, but people are still flocking to the theme parks. We've got this article from the blog DisneyDining.com, and they kind of report on Disney's latest investors report, and they do say theme parks are booming. They're continuing to be pleased with the overall demand and attendance trends at our domestic parks. That would include Disney World in Florida, and it's worth mentioning that Bob Chapek, before he was the Disney CEO, he was the head of the theme parks division, and he's not necessarily from Hollywood. He's from a part of the company that's more directly involved with customers. So theme park fans, they criticize Chapek because he's a penny pincher. Like they call him Cheapek. That's his nickname. But he does understand the importance of serving the customers. So that's where he's coming from, and that's why I do think he might be the one to pull Disney out of the red ink and back into a good public image. Hopefully, if whether or not he's the one, he'll set things up so that can happen. So, and just know that things may look bad now, but there are pockets of resistance. There are pockets of people within organizations who want their companies or their governments to do the right thing. And we, as people outside or even independent, self-employed individuals, we need to discern who is doing the right thing and support that. So with that, I'll let you go. Like I said, if you find this content valuable, please give it a upvote, give it subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to this on, and share it. I'll let you go. I'm in Houseman, and I'm going to let you know it's okay to stand up for yourself. Have a good one.